Alright, everyone. Hopefully we are live. Because science teacher, if we could get a quick sound check. At your convenience, because science teacher, just let us know if we can get a sound check. Okay, yeah, but because science teacher, I'm asking if we have a sound check. Okay, cool, there we go. Sorry, there was a bit of a lag. Alright, everyone. Hello and welcome once again to the SitRep podcast stream. We didn't really have any games set up for today, so I thought I would just do some quick. Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks very much. SitRep podcast. All right, sounds good. All right, we had a little bit of a thing with our Restream.io account. Fortunately, I got that fixed, but when I got it fixed, it reset some of the settings. So we were broadcasting live on some channels and not others. So I apologize for that. But we seem to be up and running now fine. Let me see who is in our chat today. Oh wow, Commodore Rob, hello. If you're with us, thanks very much. Because Science Teacher and SitRep Podcasts. All right, everybody. If you've been paying attention, or if you've been listening to some of our recent podcasts here on SitRep, you may have heard that we are thinking about doing some 75th anniversary commemorative games for Operation Market Garden. Admittedly, we are a little late. That is from the other night when we did the exclusive Patreon podcast. Okay, cool. Never saw the ad. That's a good point. Let me go ahead and play our ad super fast, everybody, and then we will get started in earnest. Give me 2 seconds.
Are you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Black Site Studio Terrain. Alright, everybody. So, like we were saying a second ago, we're getting ready to do some slightly belated, but nevertheless pertinent 75th anniversary commemorative games for Operation Market Garden. We had a couple choices available for our game system, either Panzer Leader or Valor and Victory. Only because, again, we obviously play online with people, so we don't have the luxury of everybody gathering around together around the same physical table for either 15 or 28 millimeter miniatures. So we have to play something that we can do remotely. That means some sort of a board game or virtualized game or Hex Encounters game, something like that. So what we settled on was, oops, sorry, got a little bit of junk on here, everyone. Sorry, everyone, sorry. There we go. So what we settled on was Valor and Victory. Because Valor and Victory is mostly an infantry-heavy game. Will Market Garden be the next Op Center? No, it will not. You could easily do 4 parts on Operation Market Garden, but unfortunately, Market Garden is not technically modern warfare. The definition we use for modern warfare is post 1945. The reason being, again, not to super belabor a point that's gone over many times before. What makes modern war modern is the fact that it is limited, and World War II was anything but limited. Modern war is limited because of television, because of new governments, because of the atomic bomb, because of internet, because of television, because of media, because of this, because of that.
World War II, I'm sorry, modern war is limited war, usually. World War II, of course, market garden's part of World War II, was definitely not limited. It's probably the most unlimited war there's ever been. Um, so, anyway, that's why it won't be part of the Op Center. Hello, Walkabout Games over on YouTube. How you doing? All right, yeah. So I'm trying to watch two chats here. I'm trying to watch chat on YouTube and also on Twitch. So if I don't see anything super fast, I do apologize. All right, guys. Let me see here. Forgive my navigation for just a second while I find some of my materials. Okay, so again, we're talking about doing some commemorative gaming for Market Garden, Operation Market Garden, September 1944 in Valor and Victory here on the SitRep channel next week. Obviously, we won't be playing any of those today, but what we're looking at instead is getting ready for those games. So, Operation Market Garden, I mean, anyone who's seen the movie A Bridge Too Far knows about Operation Market Garden. The Allies have landed in Normandy, France, earlier in 1944. There was a very, I mean, everyone's seen Saving Private Ryan and knows how terrible that first day on certain parts of Normandy really were. Not all of it, but some of it. Of course, they make movies about the terrible parts, but that's not the point. There was a difficult landing, and then even more so, this is the part that doesn't get a lot of attention, is an extremely difficult battle that lasted for months, literally the rest of June into all of July and the beginning parts of August, fighting deeper into that very narrow strip of northern France, commonly called the Bocage country, the Normandy country, the back country, whatever you want to call it. The point is, the Germans were putting up a pretty good containment battle there until certain breakout operations took place. Once those breakout operations took place, they outflanked German 15th Army and 7th Army, unhinged the German defense, pretty much closed them up in a pocket at a place called Falaise, and that was the official end of the Battle of Normandy. That was the beginning of August 1944. This pretty much annihilates the German army in France, and that's when we have the mad dash across France against what was basically a vacuum of defense. The one exception to that would be some of the Canadian battles along through the Channel ports, up along the very northern coast of France, leading towards Belgium and Holland. But for now, it was pretty much just an open running field. There was really no Germans in front of you. The only Germans that were in France had already been encircled and either destroyed or captured. Pretty much Army Group West had been liquidated. The Americans had also managed to mount a landing in the southern part of France that not many people talk about because it was very easy. Operation Dragoon, this is against the German 19th Army in the south of France. They're coming up through the Italian and the Swiss borders, closing on the southern part of the German border with France, while these guys are just rushing headlong across the interior of France. Paris gets liberated, and then you're pretty much in a rush straight to the German border. This very fluid and liquid kind of a battlefield, a very open kind of a battlefield, started to convince some of the higher ups in the Allied command structure that the Germans were by and large beaten. The Germans were also taking titanic defeats in the Eastern Front at this time. Operation Bagration and the Year of 10 Blows and everything else that the Soviets called it. They were knocking countries out of the war by this point. Finland, Romania were the first. And things were really... Hitler's own people tried to kill him on July 20th. Things were really going bad for the Third Reich through the later part of the summer in 1944. So that when you get to the early part of fall in 1944, the Germans, especially in the West, seem to be on their last legs. And this leads to an overconfidence on the part of some Allied commanders. Montgomery, but certainly not the only one. There were other, American commanders as well, and even some French commanders who thought, hey, if we're going to win the war, let's win the war by Christmas. Let's not even have the war last into 1945. Let's knock out the Germans now while we can. And they came out with this very, very rushed, very overconfident, very complicated, and very ill prepared. It's airborne and armor assault, mechanized infantry assault out of northern France into the southern parts of Holland that was supposed to capture a series of bridges, some of them over the Rhine River, and pretty much open up a side door into northern Germany. And the idea was to pretty much end the war within a couple months. Within, they called it 100 days. They were hoping to end the war by the end of 1944. Obviously, it didn't work. So I won't get into the super particular details of Operation Market Garden, but in summary, what we're talking about here is a series of airborne drops in a general corridor leading north-northeast, taking a series of bridges, again, in what is, southern, the southern Netherlands, over rivers and canals, culminating with the Rhine River that leads obviously into Germany. There were going to be at least three airborne divisions doing this: the American 101st, the American 82nd, and finally the British Airborne, 1st Airborne actually, supplemented by other troops like the Polish Independent Paratrooper Brigade later. And these guys were supposed to take and hold some of these bridges while a ground assault spearheaded by 30 Corps of British 21st Army Group was supposed to run forward and link up with all of these paratroopers and thus connect the dots, so to speak, and open up this corridor, solidify this corridor of these bridges in order to open up this avenue into northern Germany. So the airborne troops would land, take the bridges, because there's a lot. This is obviously, part of the Netherlands. Half of Netherlands is underwater most of the time. A lot of rivers, a lot of swamps, a lot of canals. There's a lot of water. And in order to have an army move across waterlogged terrain, what you need is a lot of bridges. So they were going to drop the airborne troops, take the bridges, and then the ground troops were going to rush forward, link up with these airborne bridgeheads, and solidify the hold on these bridges. And thus, between the airborne and the armored assault, you would have this coordinated highway, so to speak, of Allied terrain extending, again, north-northeast through southern Holland, or the southern Netherlands, into the very northern, I guess would be the northwestern part of Germany. So the first one was the 101st. 30 Corps linked up with them pretty much on time. Well, they were late, but they weren't incredibly behind time. And then, again, the next big stop was the 82nd Airborne. And that's what we're going to be looking at here. So, our opponent, or our participant in this project next weekend, is going to be our own SITREP 6. That's Gianna. I'm checking out the comments here, everybody. Okay, who has done time in the 82nd Airborne. This is one of the 82nd Airborne's more famous battles. Of course, 82nd Airborne has plenty of famous battles to pick from, but this was one of them. This is kind of a zoom in on the northern parts of Nijmegen. This is a town in, the southern part of the Netherlands, where it kind of nestles up against the southern bank of what was called the Val River. So Nijmegen, here we see on our screen, hopefully. Nijmegen is the big city in the southern part of our map. Obviously, the big blue river that kind of dips down across the map is the Valor River. This is a tributary of the Rhine, and we see these bridges. We see one bridge here, and we see another bridge here. This is a railroad bridge. This is a road bridge. There were two bridges over the Valor River that were among the bridges that 82nd Airborne had to capture, specifically the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. They had to take these bridges and hold them long enough for the British to come up with the tanks and mechanized infantry and secure these bridges across this river. This was the last big part of Stage 2. So if you had to divide all of Market Garden into three basic stages, you've got the 101st Airborne in the south, seizing a bunch of bridges around a town called Eindhoven, although it wasn't just Eindhoven. Like I said, each one of these divisions had to take a series of bridges. but that was the first big group of bridges. Eindhoven, 101st. Further north, you've got the second big stage, where there's a whole series of bridges, but this was the big one near Nijmegen. This is in the sector of the 82nd Airborne. And then finally, up in the north, way past this map, is the third and final stage, where we have British 1st Airborne, later supplemented by Polish Parachute Brigade, and they had to take the last big series of bridges, including the bridge at Arnhem, the very famous bridge at Arnhem that leads into Germany itself. This was supposed to end the war early, and of course, it didn't really work out. The airborne drops had a number of problems. They did not get coordinated correctly. Everything was rushed. Nobody had enough aircraft. Everybody has seen the movie. There was there were a million and one problems. But the paratroopers overcame these problems. Both Americans and British, and even later Polish, overcame most of these problems and accomplished their part of the mission. They did take most of these bridges. The problem was that the ground element, 30 Corps, had a hell of a time trying to reach them all in time. The people that really sort of dropped the ball in Operation Market Garden were a lot of military intelligence people. And even when military intelligence instructed and informed and found out and advised the generals in charge that the Germans were not terribly weak in this sector, despite previous estimates. In fact, two SS German panzer divisions, albeit far from full strength, but nevertheless, these are some seriously bad boys. They had moved into this area, maybe we should call off this operation. They did not call off the operation, and they dropped these poor paratroopers in the middle of basically unwinnable situation, because they thought they could still do it, and turns out they were wrong. So specifically, this is the northernmost part of 82nd Airborne's, that second stage. This is the final part of that second stage. And the last couple of bridges they have to take are these two bridges that we're looking at here over the Valor River. We're going to recreate 82nd Airborne's attack on these Valor River bridges in our Valor and Victory game. So I'm going to zoom in this map a little bit. As you see, nowadays there are three bridges, but at the time there were only two. There's this railroad bridge here again, and there's this road bridge here. These are the objectives for the 82nd Airborne. We won't be doing both bridges in this game because this game's already going to be kind of big. But we were going to be doing the first bridge to be taken, which is the more famous railroad bridge. That's this one here. So zooming in, this is going to be our general battle area. Something that looks generally like this. Okay, so in case you haven't figured it out, or in case you haven't seen the movie, what we're going to be recreating here, working on one with a logo, waiting on Ralph with a new design. Oh, cool. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. So Gianna Sitrep Podcast is on the chat. She probably knows where we're going with this by now. This is going to be, for those of you who have seen the movie, this is going to be Robert Redford's scene in the movie A Bridge Too Far. This is where the Germans control the northern part of this bridge, up here in Nijmegen Nord, the northern part of Nijmegen town. And the Allies, 82nd Airborne, control most of the southern part. There is still some very, very serious holdouts here. There are still German troops. The movie kind of overgeneralizes it and makes it look like the Allies controlled the southern part of the river, the Germans controlled the northern part of the river. That's not exactly true. There were strong German elements deep in these little streets in here, including some Fallschirmjägers and some SS Panzer Grenadier troops. There's some very serious fighting in these little side streets down here. But the rush is on to take these bridges, because everything has to be done super fast. Everything has to be done right on schedule. This whole plan is overcomplicated. It's got too many moving parts. They all have to fall like dominoes, click after click after click after click. And here is the problem. Anyone who's played with dominoes as a kid knows what happens when a single domino doesn't fall the way you expected it to. The whole show stops. Operation Market Garden is a textbook example of what happens when your plan is too complicated and it has too many steps, and those steps are too interdependent. Your plan has to have a little bit of flexibility to it, and when it doesn't, you have things like this. So, yeah, Hail Mary, full of grace. Yeah, Sitrep Podcast knows where we're going with this. So we're going to be designing a map today, folks, that's going to be looking generally at this area. right about here. And this is, whoa, what happened here? Sorry, folks, hold on one moment. Wow, I don't even know what the heck happened there. I just moved my whole taskbar by mistake. Okay, cool, I got it back. So, again, to go with the movie logic, which is close but not 100%, but you know what, it's good enough. The Germans largely control the northern part of this Vol River, and the Allies, being the Americans of 82nd Airborne, that's Parachute Infantry Division, elite paratroopers, but basically infantry, elite infantry, and some pretty solid tanks. Irish Guards, spearheading 30th Corps, are coming up from the south. And what they have to do is they have to take this first big bridge. They have to do it before the Germans blow it up. The Germans have this bridge mined for demolition. It's going to blow up pretty much with the touch of a button. So, you're the commander. You're on the southern part of this river. You have to take the whole bridge right here against German opposition before they blow it up. And they do a pretty good job in the movie where I think it's General Gavin's character, or the character that represents General Gavin, that's division commander for 82nd Airborne, pretty much asks Robert Redford's character, what's the best way to take a bridge? You have to take the bridge from both sides at once. So the American plan is, in general, thus: 3rd Battalion of 504th. That's Howe, Ida, and George companies. Did I get that right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Yeah, George, Howe, and Ida companies. G, H, and I companies. 3rd Battalion, 504th Parachute Infantry, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division, are going to try and land via little assault boats, although I use that term loosely, somewhere up here. They're going to land up here, and once they do, they're going to drive this way, and then they're going to attack the bridge from this side, while other troops attack the bridge from this side, and they're going to take the bridge from two sides at once. Hopefully, that's going to give them the bridge before the Germans have a chance to blow it up. And once they secure the bridge, it's going to be open for British armor, and specifically Irish armor, to cross the bridge, and now they're deep into this German side of the river, and hopefully they can mop things up and get set up for that big assault toward Arnhem, the third big operational stage of Market Garden. Now that I have literally talked myself to death already, what I've spent most of this morning doing is coming up with a larger size template for oops, for a Valor and Victory map. So one big challenge that we're going to face right off the bat on this project is the size of the battle. The battle is not terribly big as far as the number of troops involved. Again, 3 companies, they're not even really full strength, but 3 general companies of 3rd Battalion, 504th. That's not that many. That's 3 companies, you figure, or really 2 companies. 2 companies because the 3rd company was landed later in support. So really 2 companies, H and I company, Howe and Ida company, of, you know what, I may have that wrong. I'll look this up later. But 2 companies of 504th were the ones that pretty much made that very famous crossing over the line. Relic 29. I see your question here in the chat. Is this game online? Yes and no. This game is Valor and Victory by Barry Doyle. Hell yes, this game is online. You can find this game at valor-and-victory.com. Is the basic game that you can. It's free to print and play. It's pretty much a love letter to old 1980s Advanced Squad Leader. What we're doing today is we're just going to quickly come up with a map, or we're going to get started on the map. We're probably not going to finish it in one stream, but we're getting ready with a map
for next week's game. Next week's game is going to be a digital version of a print and play game that you can find at valor-and-victory.com. And we're going to play next week, probably on Sunday. Yeah, Relic 29, Valor dash and dash. You know what? I'm online here. Valor dash and dash victory.com. Pretty sure that leads to it. Okay, this is the website, guys. Okay, cool. Yeah, Sit Rep Podcast is also putting it in the thing. So, yeah, this is the game, the basic game. Again, Barry Doyle published this a while ago, and he's been working on it ever since. The files are all available. The basic game, some of the basic counters. Um, and, it's enough to get started. Now you can either what most people do is they download these files. It's mostly a series of PDFs. They print it out, they play it out, and they have great with it. This game is highly recommended. It is relatively simple, but it captures a lot of the feeling of those old 1980s Panzer Leader, Advanced Squad Leader, Panzer Blitz, style games, without a lot of the complication and what's the word? Overcomplication that's sometimes associated with those games. Sometimes unfairly, but nevertheless, it's associated with it. So what this game does is allows you to play these kind of things for free. Although you do have to print the stuff out yourself, mount it on cardboard, paste it together, cut it out, or whatever. And again, what we're doing specifically for this project is we've worked out a series of ways to play it online on Twitch, not with Vassal, although there are people who play with Vassal too, and enjoy it that way. Only because we're scattered all over the globe. I've got Valor and Victory players, and it's literally the United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark, England, and Australia and Canada. We're literally all over the place. So, yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this one. A Steam version. I've been here. Okay, the Steam version for Valor and Victory. I've been hearing that for a while. I just haven't seen it myself. Okay, Relic 29. Great question. Advanced Squad Leader. If you play Valor and Victory, you're going to see a lot of Advanced Squad Leader in there. This is a spiritual successor, I feel, to Advanced Squad Leader. And if you read the campaign notes for Valor and Victory by Barry Doyle, you'll see that he was a big fan of Advanced Squad Leader back in the day. Advanced Squad Leader is one of those great games from a bygone era there where it's tough sometimes to get new players. Because of reasons. So what we're going to try and do is, or what Valor and Victory tries to do is make it more accessible to, today's war gamers. Basically, they put the game system on a diet, and trimmed down the rules a great deal and made it a lot faster. And then what people like me do is we recomplicate it. Okay, guys. We've had a lot of talk and so on, so let me try and get this thing going again. So as you'll see from some of our previous maps, this was the general area of the Vol River. What I've done is I've taken this general rectangle here of the historical landing site, the historical obstacles. There's this little fortified area that we're going to get into in a little bit. And then there's the actual objective. There's the north end of the railroad bridge. And what I've done is I've rotated this whole thing about 30 degrees counterclockwise to make it fit in a map a little easier. So again, this is that smaller area of the map we were just looking at, rotated about 30 degrees counterclockwise, so it fits easier in our format. So like I was saying before, the thing with this map, or the thing with this battle, is it's not really big unit-wise, but it is big
geography wise. And using the most generous, or whatever you want to use, the easiest estimations possible for how big a Valorant Victory hex actually is, we still wind up with some very huge numbers of hexes. So, I mean, people who play Valorant Victory will tell you that the map board is not usually this big. This is about 8 or 9 Valorant Victory boards kind of glued together. This is a huge Valorant Victory map, but it's going to be more normal sized as far as the actual numbers of units go. We're looking basically at 2 companies of the 504th. That's about 18 squads. You figure 3 platoons, 3 squads per platoon times 2 companies. 18 is our total. Plus, officers, support units, 25, 30 tops counters for the American side. It's going to be a big game, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be absurd. It's not going to be like Omaha Beach, where we did in Panzer Leader took 25 hours to play. It's not going to be like Gold Beach, Jig Sector that I played with Damon and Bruce Lee. It took about 9.5, 10 hours in Panzer Leader. We're not doing anything like that. Although this map is absurdly large, just in its sprawl of hexes. A lot of these hexes won't even be in play. Notice half the hexes are in water. So this map, I keep dancing around the point here. The map is not as big as it looks. Pretty much everything south of the water here, everything south of this line is going to be unplayable. But again, it's just the way the river was historically shaped, and I like to draw maps that are historically accurate. So our map is going to be a little wonky. I literally was playing around with this for quite a while earlier today, trying to figure out the best way to make this fit, and it wasn't easy. So the point is, lots of hexes. It seems like too many hexes, and in some ways it is too many hexes. But again, we won't be playing with a great deal of them. This is assuming a 50-meter hex, or 50 meters to the hex, so it's bigger than most Valorant Victory boards, but it's literally as small as I could make it without being just completely historically screwy. In general, to summarize up front, from the landing site where 3rd Battalion 504th actually landed to that northern foot of the Vol River Railroad Bridge is right about 2 kilometers. It's about 2,100 meters. So to get that to fit in a historically accurate map was not the easiest. Okay, guys, so enough history. You guys can ask as much questions as you want, obviously. But what we're going to switch over to now is I got my waycam pad going. I'm here in Photoshop 14, and I'm going to start doing some awesome. Oops. I'm going to start drawing the actual map. Now, some of these retention ponds and so forth do not appear in other maps that I'm finding. Obviously, the main river does. So does these little tributaries in this larger lake. But these larger ones do not appear. And I'm actually on 82nd Airborne's website, and I'm on a bunch, Dutch national historical museums have websites. They have a monument on this battlefield to commemorate this day's action. They have maps. Obviously, I downloaded those maps. You can find them on the website. Pretty much just look up Crossing of the Vol River, VAAL, or I should say WAAL, 20 September 1944, and you're going to find all the same maps I'm finding. So the reason I mention that now is I'm not going to be tracing all of these water features into our map. I have a feeling some of these were added later in history. Nowadays, I know for a fact there's a third river. I'm sorry, a third bridge over this river, which obviously was built after World War II, so we will not be including that in our thing. So the general starting area for the Americans is going to be down here in this corner where you see me drawing, hopefully. You see this blue appearing here on your map? Pretty much the Americans are going to be landing in this area right here. This is where Robert Redford, I'm totally spacing on the actual historical major's name at the moment. That's going to be their landing area. And they're going to make a survival check. We're going to see how many of those boats actually make it across the water. Spoiler alert, a lot of them didn't make it. They took a tremendous amount of punishment coming across this water. The smoke screen did not work, and the planned nighttime river assault was delayed for various reasons and didn't happen until the daytime. So they had to do it in daylight under a smoke screen that just flat out failed. There wasn't enough artillery, and to lay a proper smoke screen, the wind was too high, and just everything went wrong. So these poor guys pretty much had to do this in the open. But whatever units do land in this general area, hopefully you guys are seeing that little cursor on the screen, then they're going to have to go north. They're going to have to overcome this little obstacle. You see that little circle there? That's an actual moat around a little fortification that the Germans had built over there, including 20 millimeter flat guns, and there was even some 88s back here along this road. And then they're going to have to push through all this mess and reach some of the objectives here on the north side of the Vol Railroad Bridge. But for now, let's get the basics of um, our map drawn out here. So I'm going to be sticking to gaming talk, plus whatever's in the chat, and maybe some history. If anyone's interested in the Excel, not the Excel, sorry. I doubt anyone is, but just in case, if anyone gets interested in the Photoshop part of the chat, or I should say the Photoshop aspect of the project, if there's any graphic nerds out there. Although right now my waycam pad is not working. It works for weeks until I get on stream. I have a funny feeling OBS does something that messes with my tablet driver, because it only fails on stream. But I have a feeling that you guys are more interested in either the history or the wargaming aspect of this thing, as opposed to the Photoshop elements. So I'm just kind of going for the general, very basic topographical layout of the historical battlefield. Again, I'm going to leave off those. Well, and then what I'm going to do is when I'm done with tracing, so to speak, I'm going to go ahead and fix it up later. Now, one thing I do know that was there historically was this thing. Damn it, yeah, it's not working. Hold on 1 second, guys. Yeah, it's a big file. Look how long it takes to save. Alright. I'm going to try to restart my Photoshop and see if that sort of brings this whole thing back with a Wacom pad with the correct settings. Holy crap, man. This might have been a bad idea. It's taking my computer this long to open a freaking folder. Make sure I don't have a go session of Photoshop going. Nope, nope, nope. Photoshop has a bad habit of that. It'll keep open a go session, and then when you try to reopen your when you try to reopen a new file, it reopens it again as another session of Photoshop, which really slows your computer down. Photoshop is not exactly a light piece of software, and even worse, it opens up your new session with the same settings you had on your old session. Ergo, nothing that you tried to fix got fixed. Now, come on and work, man, because I'm tired of your bullshit. Come on, moment of truth. Nope. God damn it. Nope. Nope. Wow, this is really annoying. Why aren't you doing this? I'm about ready to give up on this, guys. I know you guys didn't log onto Twitch to watch me fight with an obstinate Wacom pad. Yeah, I know because we've been streaming for an hour and we've barely started. Um, because I hate my life. Although to be fair, we had a little bit of trouble getting our stream up and running, so our scheduled start at 3 didn't exactly start at 3. We started more at like 3:15 or so. It's still not doing it. There's no reason why you don't do that.
I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not restarting the computer. The hell with that. It's really annoying. But you know what? Maybe with water ops or water features this big, it won't really matter. God damn annoying. You know, you bust your ass all day to get ready for a stream, just for everything to shit the goddamn bed as soon as you get started. Story of my goddamn life. Every single thing that could have possibly gone fucking wrong today has gone wrong to the point where I just don't even give a damn anymore. So obviously I'm just trying to form the shape of the river here. Form the shape of the river, and at the same time, I mean, the reason I don't just grab like the source map and just use that, like a copy pasted wholesale, is well, number one, you know, it's a hobby. You're supposed to make the maps yourself. But more importantly, you have to get the game, or you have to get your map to where it's legal game wise. Like right now, this L15 hex, is that a water hex or a land hex? Um, you have to make sure that your map is clear per the rules. I'm still really upset at this Wacom pad isn't working right. It's supposed to read the pressure of my pen as well as where I'm actually drawing it, which isn't that big a deal for some operations. But when you're trying to draw something, fluid like a river, there's a little bit of fluid involved in a river. So I've been told. I'm not a scientist or anything. Um, it gets very tricky. I've been using this Wacom pad all day for the last week. I've never had a problem with it. Only when the stream starts does it get started. Does this bullshit get started? And it really has me, if you can't tell, more than a little upset. Because it's embarrassing and it's frustrating. But if I slow down and try to think about it rationally, um, the only major thing that's different is OBS. A piece of software I'm really, really learning to fucking hate. OBS and Twitch. I don't know which one, but between the two of them, I have nothing but problems all the time. And I work for a pretty serious tech company, so I'm not exactly a dunce when it comes to this kind of stuff. It would not surprise me. Thanks. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. I appreciate it. Will you let me back up? Can I still edit steps? Or are you going to screw me over on that too? Any day, machine. Any day. Any day. Any day. Any day. Any day. Any day. Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm not putting you through. Alright, guys, you know what? A quick sit rep announcement. This is going to be the last time I ever stream Photoshop on the stream.
two things I enjoy very, very much. I enjoy wargaming and I enjoy working in Photoshop. And they're both being ruined at the moment. Not that anyone really gives a shit, but. Alright, let's try and get this tributary going. Yes, that's what I wanted to happen. How did you know? How did you know? Now this thing, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it's a very sharply defined. Oops, wrong tool. Very sharply defined triangle. It must be some sort of a dry dock or a dock or a pier or well, not a pier. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I'm not missing anything in the chat. Oh, Howard Wood, is that? Hey, welcome to our stream, sir, over there on Facebook. Sorry, on YouTube. You've tuned in just in time for another episode of Jim versus Photoshop. And as usual, I'm losing. I usually do really well with Photoshop. Like I said, I've been using it. I've been using this pad, this tool, on far more complicated projects now for the better part of a week, like 10 hours a day, like non-gaming related graphic design projects or whatever. But yeah, what can I say? It's not really working out for me. So Howard, if you're just joining us, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a Valor and Victory map for a recreation of the Vol River crossing in Operation Market Garden. We're doing a belated, somewhat belated, like 1 week, belated 75th anniversary commemorative game. The Vol River crossing is the Robert Redford scene in a bar. We're going to recreate that battle on a 90 or an 85 to 90% historical basis. Not 100%, but we're going to do we're going to do our level best. It's a pretty interesting battle. Obviously, the geography is very complicated. You've got a multiple stream river, with canals coming off the side, little harbors and piers, and there's a lot of water, and it's not just like Omaha Beach where there's water in the north and sand in the south. It's some complicated terrain. This would be a mother of a board to build to build in any kind of miniature table. It would look amazing, but holy crap, this thing would be a challenge to build on any kind of terrain, like a three-dimensional terrain table. Certainly not impossible. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's done it. One of the things I think that make it a little interesting is the different troops that are involved. So, despite what we see in the movie, it was not just 82nd Airborne that did this assault. In fact, the 82nd Airborne guys, specifically 3rd Battalion 504th, didn't really row themselves across the river like the movie depicts. They were a big part of the boat. Part of the operation was actually carried out by, I want to say, the 37th Engineers. In fact, they had to make several trips to get more troops and weapons across the river. So it wasn't just the paratroopers. So we're going to have some combat engineers on the table. Is the takeaway from that. And on top of that, now we go over to the German side. The German side is a force called Kampfgruppe U. Oh God, I'm probably not going to pronounce this right. Kampfgruppe Uling, if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't speak very good German at all, and by that I mean I don't really speak any German. This was originally a piece of the 9th SS Panzer Division. For this battle, they had been transferred more or less permanently to the 10th SS Panzer Division. Long story short, they're German SS, Panzer troops. Although they don't, or I should say, Panzer Grenadiers. There aren't really any tanks here. So we have some SS troops. But they're not everything. They were definitely in control, but when they kind of took over control of or they took over responsibility for the defense of the northern end of this bridge, they sort of like took over all the troops that were already there. There were already some German personnel there, of a markedly less quality. I think there were some Luftwaffe air defense troops there, so you have like some 20 millimeter flak guys. A couple 88 crews were there. So there were some SS troops here. There were some Luftwaffe ground troops also in the area, and some construction. I call them engineers, but they were almost just like paramilitary work crews, organization tote kind of guys. Um, oh man, that was really annoying. I don't even want to see what this looks like. Like that, yeah, that band of the river looks way too sharp. Eh, the hell with it. Apparently my Twitch just crashed, so hopefully you guys are still with us. Rasmus, if you're still with us, hello. According to my stream, we are playing another ad because that's fun. I didn't ask for that. So if you guys can't hear me, it's because I'm watching an ad. I'm going to reopen my Excel. Cool, thanks very much, because science teacher. I'm going to reopen Photoshop one more time because I don't want to try and draw this old German medieval moat fortification thing. This is this little perfectly formed circle you see up here, or almost perfectly formed circle. Nope, still not working. That is so goddamn annoying. Why? 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 I promise you, I am not restarting the whole damn computer. See that button right there? That's supposed to give me my pressure sensitive. And it's not doing it for me. God, that is annoying. It literally stops me from the next part of the next part of what I'm supposed to do here. All right, you know what? Let me overcome and adapt. If I really start cursing a lot, guys, I apologize. This is going to be very tough. It's so goddamn aggravating. What the hell? Seriously? Not my favorite stream, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry you had to be here for it. Not having a good day. Look at this. I can't do anything. All right, let's talk with people in the chat. Um, because this computer is going to take literally about 10 minutes to finish sizing my image and to save. So maybe I can work with it, just maybe. If I dummy down the resolution enough, I might actually be able to get something friggin' accomplished today. But I doubt it, because that's just the kind of day I'm having. Really, Photoshop? Really? Fuck you in every hole. Alright, I have shrunk my file by a heartbreaking amount. So I've just pissed away at least 80% of my resolution. If you guys enjoy these Photoshop streams, I invite you to enjoy this one because this is the last one we're ever doing. I promise you that. Okay, guys. So you don't think I'm going absolutely goddamn nuts? Do you see what the machine is doing now? Do you see how this line is now smooth and flowing and it's allowing me to vary the thickness of the line? It took me, how long have we been streaming, John? It took me 45 minutes to get the goddamn machine to do this. Thanks, OBS. Thanks, Twitch. And thanks, Photoshop, for completely wrecking the afternoon. I really appreciate it. The good news is, now I can finally draw this German moat. Let me attempt to be positive for a second, because I am starting to lose my temper a little bit. Alright. God, it's so much better. Ugh. Yeah, I don't think we'll be doing too many of these Photoshop streams anymore, guys. It's just not working out for me. I don't know if my file is too big or if OBS isn't playing well with my Wacom driver. It's not my Wacom driver natively, and it's not Photoshop, because again, I've been neck deep in this software 60 hours this past week, and it hasn't given me any of these problems. But it's sure giving me problems today. Only when I turn on OBS. Or, you know what, let me rephrase that. Only when I stream. The problem when you stream, I don't know if any of you guys ever stream anything, but when you stream, you have to piggyback through so many other pieces of software that you don't really own or control. Or OBS goes to Restreamer, goes to Twitch, goes to your internet, your whatever your actual internet broadcaster is, your Google or who knows what. And if something is going wrong in one of those, it's often hard to tell exactly where your problem lies. When you see people like gaming on Twitch, it's usually audio. I don't usually have a problem with audio, except that my audio is terrible, but it's consistently terrible. Okay, now that my stupid thing is working, let me try and make this Valor River here a little less hideous. Oh God, what a difference. Maybe my file was just literally too big. I don't know. Because I shrank it down to about 10% of its current size and resolution. Yeah, it does look pretty bad. Look at that. That looks like garbage. Oh my God. Oh well. I can't help it now. It's already, as far as resolution go, it's already ruined. Yeah, see how janky these letters look now? Like F14, G14. They look like something out of a 1980s dot matrix printer. Thanks, OBS, for making me dumb down my Photoshop document to such a point where that's the only way I can actually get my tools to work properly. Okay, we won't need any Vietnam style like bamboo bridges, so I'll take that off. Dirt roads, I will hide those for now. Paved roads, I know I want. So that's this layer with all of its uh, predetermined layer effects. What I'm actually going to do now is build some of these roads. Oops, that's way too big. Way too big. Make it small and make it darker. It's probably a little too dark. Yeah, you can still tell what I'm doing, but the problem is because science teacher, a lot of this is going to have to be redone because I can't game with a map on this resolution. This is garbage. So this has all been a pretty colossal waste of time. Sorry to say. It's a good thing I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Oh wait, it's a good thing this wasn't my only day off this whole week. All right, let me get the actual bridge close to its historical location. One more hex grid over. You know what? That's close enough. And now I'm just going to build a. I'm going to build a Dutch city. Whoa! I have to pay attention to the hex grid. So I can't just drop the roads wherever I want. Um, because the roads have to. What's the word here? They have to abide by the hex grid, and it's the game. In the end, the game has to be legal. Or I should say, the map has to be legal. That's dumb. So you guys who might have watched these streams before know that I usually draw my maps with a pen. Um, Here in Photoshop, I'm drawing it with the angle tool at the moment. Um, Guys, this is a more civilized part of the world. Not civilized. What's the right word? A more developed part of the world than some of the maps that we've played in more recently. So I will. There are more straight lines. Straight lines are much easier to do with this tool than trying to draw them. With a pen. The northern part of Nijmegen is not as heavily built up as the southern part. Most of the town is on the southern half of the river, or the southern bank of the river. But there are some suburbs, so to speak. So I'm going to put in some streets. And what I'll do later is I'll fill in some. Let me not do that. I'll fill in some buildings. So get all this other part of the template road piece out of here. Very annoying. Then we're going to bring in some dirt roads. Dirt roads obviously are a lot more wobbly and free flowing than paved roads. Paved roads obviously are very straight and angular. These dirt roads are going to be much more free flowing. Obviously, they have a different color and different shape, so they're going to be on a very different. It's a little too light. One more. Nope. Sorry. Size of the thing. And that is close enough. Sweet. It's such a fun tool to work with when it decides to work. Okay, road time. Dun, 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 dun. That road is not quite where I want it. Obviously, we're not going to try and draw every single one of these little roads in here. Um, the game would just completely blow up. And again, I'm not exactly sure when a lot of these roads were put in place, how many of them were there historically, and if so, when. If they were there September 20th, 1944. So yeah, we're using this as a guide. The end point is to have a game that is not only historically approximate, I won't say accurate, historically approximate, but also fun. And when it comes to certain terrain features, especially things that slow you down a great deal, like towns, if you get too historically accurate, the game is going to bog down into a nightmare. Which again might be accurate. Ask the people in Stalingrad what it was like to fight in the city. Uh, doesn't mean you really want your game to be like that. You always have to strike a bit of a balance between what's fun and what's historically accurate. Because, spoiler alert, war itself is actually not fun. Um, so, you don't want your historical war game, to become too historically accurate. Oops. Trying to avoid the hex grid there. You want your town and your road hexes, or your road graphics, to go more or less through the center of the hex. There was a little bit of a road here. Oops. right, let's bulk up this road a little. Or I'm sorry, this bridge a little bit. This bridge is literally like the whole point of the. Let's get some concrete colors in here. Okay, how am I going to do this? Make sure the bridge is under the actual road. You know what? I don't know. I may have to change some of this. Oy. I know I'm being very particular about this bridge piece because I have to make sure that, yeah, not only from a graphic design perspective, to make it look, a certain way, but also make sure it covers the right dots in the center of the hexes, so that when we actually play the game, there's no ambiguity as far as which hexes are bridge hexes, which bridges are river hexes, and you have to make sure you draw your map a certain way to accommodate all that. Actually, take that away. It's like building with blocks when you were a kid. Yes, pick up the whole world, why don't you? Even though it's. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Sorry. I was about to say, I thought I had that locked. I do have it locked. Oh, maybe I picked up the river. Say the base world is locked in place. It shouldn't move even if you grab it accidentally. I've been painting some of my goofy Halo guys recently. I would have showed that on stream if I had a better webcam. But who am I kidding? OBS would shit the bed on that too. Whatever it takes to make my life miserable. Or I'm trying to get the bridge where it's centered on the road, or I should say, technically that's a railroad. I'm trying to get the bridge where it's centered on that gray road. For game purposes, it's a road. Historically, it was a railroad bridge, but that gray stripe in the middle, but at the same time, clearly indicate which hexes have the center dot in the bridge and which ones have it in the water. So I think that's a good spot. We know which hexes are bridge hexes, and we know which hexes are water hexes. And assuming I don't have to start this whole file over again later, which I still have a half fear that I will. That's our map for the moment. Again, for Valor and Victory, super big. Super big. People who played Valor and Victory on our streams before know that this map is obscenely huge for a Valor and Victory game. A Valor and Victory hex board that you download from ValorantVictory.com is 6 hexes by 12 hexes. So a typical Valor and Victory hex board is only for a single board is only about like that. And what you would do is you would get maybe 2 at the most, 3 of those and put them together. So this map is easily triple, if not quadruple the size of the largest Valor and Victory board you would typically ever play with. But again, my defense is the vast majority of this board isn't really going to be used in play. The vast majority of this board is going to be this. So the American landing zone here, and they're going to have to come through here. They're going to have to neutralize this a little whatchamacallit area. This is going to be pretty much blocked off with some more or less impassable terrain. And then they're going to have to get to German anti-aircraft defenses that can be used against ground targets here. And there are fortifications that the Germans have here, here, and here on the northern bank of that bridge. And they're going to have to pretty much get some troops onto the northern end of this bridge. So they're going to start here. We're going to see how many of them survive the river crossing. That's them coming up across the river like that. Then they're going to have to land and turn north, then east, and assault this German position more or less from behind. In a nutshell, that is what the Americans are going to be tasked with doing. And we're going to see if Gianna can recreate the results of the September 20th, 1944 attack. Again, she was with 82nd Airborne for a while back in the day, and so she has a bit of a personal connection to this battle. She wants to, do a. Again, we're off by about a week, but that's okay. What we're trying to go for here is a recreation of one of the more important battles, or at least one of the more famous battles that the 82nd Airborne fought, especially during Operation Market Garden. Now, I won't get too into it because, again, I'm not entirely keen on the resolution of this map, so I may have to redo a lot of this, but just for fun. Nope. Nope. I'm looking to see if I have some previous assets somewhere. Scenarios, maybe? What did I put? Nope, that's not it. That's definitely not it. Oh, God. Nope, apparently I don't have it. Man, that's annoying. That is so annoying. Oh, wait, I might know where it might be. Again, forgive my navigation for a second, guys. I want to see if I can find something. Really, machine? It literally just stopped. Okay, guys, you know what? My computer just doesn't fucking feel like streaming today. Libraries. Really? It wouldn't do that 2 seconds ago? Some of my old Piece of War articles. Some people may remember what we did some. There we go. Nice. Um, we did some Valorant victory. Oh, jeez, thanks for nothing, dude. That's not it. We probably don't have these. That's useless. Last try. Okay, cool. How many of these are still editable becomes the big question. Oh, cool. Most of them. Oh god, see, they're totally the wrong size. I was hoping I could grab some of the buildings from these other maps, but I forgot. Photoshop said I had to dummy down the resolution, so none of these are really usable now. I suppose I could shrink them, but guess what happens when I shrink them? I'm gonna lose all of the resolution. Like that one would have been nice. I'll figure. You know what, guys? I'll figure out a way to figure these out. I want to use buildings like this for like the Dutch row houses and some ruins and some rubble, things of that nature. So I won't have to draw all these buildings like from scratch. Now it won't let me scroll. So yeah, I'll figure this stuff out. Right now, I'm just really at my wits' end. I'm not having a very good day in a number of ways. But what I'll do is once I get my resolution figured out, as far as like how big the map's going to be, pixel wise, this is all graphic design nonsense here. I'll grab some of these pre-existing building assets I have and use them to build some of the southern main part and then the northern suburbs of Nijmegen town itself. Put in some German fortifications. I've seen photographs of this battle area. There wasn't a lot of trees or vegetation in the way, despite what we see in the movie. There was a little, so I'll put a little bit of trees on here. Basically, I'll just finish up with the map and I'll finish up with the terrain, and then I'll build the rest of the scenario. So thanks very much for coming out to the stream, everybody. I'm sorry we had some Photoshop issues. Uh, okay, Howard, thanks very much for coming by. I'll talk to you later over there on YouTube. All right, everyone. I'm sorry that was a bit of a rough stream. We didn't really have a game planned for today, and this one was kind of last minute. And Photoshop and OBS are just not playing well together. Um, I don't know where the problem is, where the root cause is, but suffice it to say, I don't know if we'll be doing too many more of these Photoshop streams because I always seem to have problems with getting my tools to work. They work fine in isolation, but when I try to get them to work together, something always seems to go wrong. Either that or my file is just too big. But when I make the file small enough to where I can actually use it here on stream, it's unusably bad. Like, look at how big those buildings are. Those buildings are supposed to fit in each hex. Yes, I can easily shrink the buildings, but now the buildings are going to be as bad in resolution as these letters are. I mean, look at this. This is barely going to be legible. I mean, can you imagine putting this up on YouTube as part of a video? I mean, it's garbage. So I'm not happy at all right now. A risk any equals not a happy camper. Photoshop wise, it's just not good enough. It doesn't meet our standards here, either me personally or on SitRep. Not happy with this at all. Um, Nevertheless, hey, sometimes hobby doesn't quite work out on the first try. You have to strip the miniature down and start over. This is going to be the Photoshop equivalent of that. Um, Nevertheless, everybody,
Yeah, I am having a rough day, Nova Stemlar, but that's okay. I'm going to take some Tylenol. I'm going to get rid of this splitting headache that I've had for a couple days now, and I'm going to try and finish this map. The good news, there's always some good news, is this game isn't running until next Sunday, so I have plenty of time to really put together a nice map, which I will do. I just won't do it live on camera. Everything is harder when you try and do it live. Okay, guys. Again, thanks very much for coming back to our stream, everyone. This one turned out to be a little bit longer than I thought. I was hoping for about an hour. We turned out to be like an hour and 40 minutes or so. Again, we didn't start right at 3, but we started a little late. We're going to finish up a little late. I'm going to try and salvage something out of this weekend. Um, I really shouldn't stream at all during end of quarter. It's just an extremely stressful time. Um, but yeah, whatever. All right, you guys are tired of hearing of my problems. I will talk to everybody later. Thanks very much for your patience, everybody. There you go. Good job. Good idea, Rasmus. I may take your advice on that one. Um, Take it easy, everybody. We'll be in touch during the week, and again, look for this game to be played live with a veteran of the 82nd Airborne in real life. Uh, I'm sorry, this time next week. I'm not sure the exact time, but it will almost certainly be Sunday. We will have German SS, Waffen SS, I should say, American 82nd Airborne Elite Infantry, and German like third-rate infantry, either Luftwaffe field crews and civilian engineers or impressed engineers, whatever you want to call it, in a bit of a free-for-all. We're going to see if Gianna can replicate the feats of 3rd Battalion, 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division on 20 September 1944, crossing of the Valor River in Nijmegen, Netherlands, Operation Market Garden. So, we'll see what happens next week, everybody. I'll talk to you then. Thanks again, and I will talk to everybody soon. So long.